All right, and welcome to another edition of Outside the Box Television. Glad to be with you February 27th, 2011. We'll take your phone calls tonight at 503-288-4442. And tonight I'm going to provide a little bit more clarity on some of the things that I touched upon last week with the PPC to, in a way, bring this to some sort of a conclusion and move on, of course, into the reports that we need to cover. But what I'm going to talk about tonight is a fairly brief summary of my relationship with the Portland Preparedness Center, why it's significant in terms of looking at it as my story, in terms of how some of us also in our lives, we'll go to that later, ladies and gentlemen. I'll cue you guys. There are lots of things taking place on the earth right now. Revolutions, a change in the wind, earth changes. And we're seeing changes in relationships between people. And we're seeing a lot of things come to the surface, things that need to be revealed, things that need to be spoken of. That's why I do what I do on this TV show. It's bringing up different issues that we ought to be thinking about, that we ought to be discussing. I thought getting involved in the preparedness business was a good idea. I met Richard from the Survival Center several years ago. I emailed him. I asked him to be a sponsor of this TV show because I want to sell his product because we do need to be prepared. And the fact of the matter is, Richard was very, very nice to me and patient with me and worked with me closely. He was like a brother. As we, he was actually kind of like an uncle. And I don't really have an abundance of family, so we developed a closeness and trust, and he saw something in me. And that made me optimistic about the future, and I'm grateful for Richard for that, that I learned some things through experience, but things I wasn't expecting to learn. And it's made me stronger. So let's talk about this. We talk about opening up a store in Portland. After I do some commercials for him, put them on YouTube, do some radio spots on my show and Oracle, kind of try to send traffic his direction, but we thought the better way to do that would be to open up a store in Portland where people don't have access to this stuff. You know, water filtration systems, the drums, barrels of wheat, rice, all important stuff. Mountain House. We'll talk about the products later. But I was really excited to be a part of this. And the idea of community and having classes and having meetups. Don't bring up his picture at this point, but Michael Knight is his name. And the reason why he is a part of this conversation is because of some things that have happened as a result of Michael Knight. Before I begin to talk about this man that was brought in to be the businessman, the front man, take care of the bills and make sure everything's legit while I work on running the store and doing my show. And planning to do other projects, organizing. I'm doing a lot. I'm running a store. Before we get into that, I don't want anyone to go to the PPC starting trouble because of what happened. In fact, that's the last thing you want to do at this time. This is a strange matrix. Enter Michael Knight. Apparently that's his real name. It's been a long time since I've worked with someone that was that cold-blooded, that was a closet abuser. Before we go to those pictures, my enthusiastic graphic friends, before we go to those pictures, we need to provide some background, and this is difficult. This is one of the most difficult things I've faced. I entered into a partnership with two people, and a guy, because of the people that I drew into the store because of the show, it upset him. All of a sudden, I became a threat and something that he felt needed to be removed from the store, claiming he wasn't trying to do that, but doing strange things incrementally over time. And what this really was a relationship with two other men that didn't really respect me but saw something in me that would draw attention to the store, maybe things would be bought. But I did not enter into an agreement with them in terms of what my partnership was. Just, yeah, it's your store. Tell people it's your store. On paper, there's nothing that says I even exist in terms of being involved with the PPC. And it looks like they set it up that way intentionally. It was all done in Michael Knight's name, and he gets to take the credit over all that was built and all those things that were donated to that store. But from the very beginning, I lived in that store. I wanted to be the nice guy and not waste my money going out on the town, be responsible, really change things around, and actually stay in the store. It was a very spiritual experience for me, very interesting energy over there on Gleason. Keep the bills down and you know, incrementally build up some money. Hey, maybe I can get a plot of land one day. Be independent. Just save my money, keep working, and yeah, make this thing fun. Things were hard for me staying in the store the whole time, and they would come remotely from Washington. They're not from Portland again. It's kind of ironic that he has the Portland Preparedness Center. They're from the country in Washington, and I'm basically bringing things into the store that synchronicity, the universe provided. A stage, other things were flowing very fast, and the interest was growing. We started an email list, and people were adding their names to it every single day, asking about the classes, very enthusiastic about movie nights. And I've certainly met a lot of bright, full of light individuals that came into that store. That's why this whole thing was fun. And I can smile at the end of this because a lesson was learned. You need to know the people that you're doing business with before you sacrifice time. And in all of our lives, many of us, we've encountered abusive bosses and situations where we need to say what needs to be said in order for us to be free, to do the right thing. It's also the same relationship that we have with what is controlling our government. We have to declare our own power and ask for respect, demand respect, not beg for respect or beg for someone to treat us nice. We have to be respected. And so this person began to abuse me verbally. There was on one occasion where he called me a cunt, and it came down to I wouldn't submit to his control. I wouldn't bow down to what he seemed to believe was his empire. You know, the energy was definitely Babylonian, and I'm not going to talk about this at great length, but I've had a couple clairvoyants look into the situation. Some people don't believe in these things, and some people are more aware than others. And I believe there was some sort of a dark energy working through Michael Knight. But why would someone go to great lengths to not only abuse me, but call Richard up and tell wild lies about me? And now that all this has come unfolding around us, the store and me leaving it, he's telling my friends that are coming in that I got a hold of the wrong batch of drugs and that I went crazy thinking demons were after me, and I left the store in panic. You know, there were so many times that we had to sit down, and I explained to him, I explained to Richard as well, I'm in a weird situation here. I'm running a survival store, and people are coming in asking for certain things, and I'm telling you, we should get those things. Things like solar panels, things like a wider variety of food outside of Mountain House, which is laced with MSG. It's not bad. It's still survival food. If you're interested in that, it's not your only option. No, Alex, no. We're interested in selling this, the 6-month food supply for, are you ready? $9.75. But what is it? A cup of Mountain House a day with a cup of white rice. You're not going to get your calorie intake from that. So in my opinion, that's not being fully honest. And now this is coming out on the table because we sat down and I said, this is what people are looking for and this is what they can't afford. And the response was, you don't know what people can't afford. What do you think? And because this person's older and I'm younger and on TV and people like me, this ego stepped into where he's like, you're a threat to my ego. And I don't like you. And I don't like your friends. And your fans don't buy enough stuff. He said this to me while calling me the C word. And I'm like, you can't just talk to people like that. This is unprofessional. F you. F you. And it was just the energy. You know, I can go on and on and on, and I'm going to try not to. But I have to state this clearly and as calmly as I can, what happened and what we learn from situations like this. I remember working at Ruth Chris Steakhouse as a busser. I allowed myself to be in that situation for 5 years where I could have left. It was just easier to stay in that situation. Sounds like some relationships. I'm not going to go try to just make money for myself and manifest things. I'm still going to be someone else's slave. You see? And aren't we all kind of facing this right now, trying to make money right now and not be treated like crap? Bill went through a lot. The guy that's running my show back there by himself, as he does every week. And I'm grateful for Bill and the others that have helped in the past. But Sylvia said point blank, I don't need another white man. Bill, can I talk about this? No? All right, then we won't go too deep into that, but there was some heavy stuff that transpired with Sylvia. And I will talk about Sylvia. And she was a racist, in my opinion, and fired Emily, who was my girlfriend for a period of time. She had directed the show for 3 years. She got rid of her. There was a number of white women that work here that, well, Sylvia never really talked to them much. She had this energy. She came to get hers because she's been wronged by the man, but now she's in a position of authority. And I stood up to Sylvia at that board meeting over there and said, anybody that gets rid of their best staff at PCM is not fit to lead. It will not last. PCM will not survive these economic hard times. If you let this person control this, she tried to mortgage the building. She tried to mortgage this place. She'd come up with her fancy sports car and parked. I'm talking about that energy of those bosses we don't like, that think they're really something, that only extract pleasure from controlling others. Let me tell you another story. Charlie Sheen on the Alex Jones show. Why did it become mainstream news? He stood up against his boss. It was this, it's in the air. This is wrong, despite what you think about him, and he's got some problems with the ladies. Let's get the knife and the hooker thing. We're not going there. But when you listen to the guy talk, and he is politically active, the things that he's speaking about gets people to look at certain issues like 9/11. The whole 20 minutes with the president thing. But he's sitting there bucking the system, and they backlash. He's fired. But you know what? That firing is his liberation. Because your ultimate commodity in this world with the dollar crashing is your time, where you put your energy and your focus. And the forces of darkness that are operating on Earth now want us to fight them. It's like the Emperor from Star Wars. Pick up the lightsaber, Luke, and strike me with your weapon. Strike me with your weapon. You know, when we're looking at the government trying to provoke the people, really, in a civil war, look at what Glenn Beck's job is. Distorting the information, but playing a lot of weird stuff in there. Again, it's the left-wing Obama communist New World Order, completely omitting what was laid in the foundation long ago with the Bush administration. Just blatant propaganda. Forces of darkness want war. And the way that I view Michael, well, he was kind of like a Death Star. You know, all they sit there, they talk about Planet X, how everything's going to hell in a handbasket. And Richard's building underground shelters. Somebody comes in, he's like, this is a business, we're here to make money, I don't like your creative energy, blah, blah, blah. You know, you need to succumb to my authority, you need to ask me for permission when you do. That's control. That's like someone that thinks this is his empire and he's going to drive someone from their land, like he's some reincarnated crazy king from Babylon. I'll tell you what, this is the business card, a business card. Bill, we're not doing 9/11 right now. Okay, we're talking about a whole other league of content. This is a business card that a friend made for me. Portland Preparedness Center, you can see the eclipse there. My friend Debbie Chan from San Francisco, and I want to thank her. Well, it's a very nice design. He saw this and flipped out in jealousy. Because I asked him, like, he's like, you have to ask me, you know when I get a little bit intense, right? And I start going off and I like pissed off, like a choo-choo train to boo, right? Those eyes, when that guy was like, you don't know, no. And I'm like, you know what I'm talking about? My alcoholic, abusive father reincarnated in this dude? I believe everything happens for a reason, and I am in the middle of a spiritual war because of things that I speak about on the show. And I know I've attracted certain energies, and it sounds crazy to some people.